Hello and welcome back to Spy Hard's podcast, the best spy movie podcast this side of Federation space. I'm Captain Scott.
And I'm Lieutenant Commander Cam the Provocateur, shaving his head to get in touch with his inner Delton.
You look better for it. If anything, I'm instantly more attracted to you.
Is it that or the white bathrobe? I'm not sure.
If anything, it's too much you're wearing. I need to see more. The webcam cuts off too early. You're just teasing me at this point.
It's censored for television, and Star Trek is, of course, a television property.
It is, and generally aimed at kids, so we should probably drop the smut.
That's right. Keep it family-friendly.
No, but we're back to talk about perhaps a not-so-family-friendly iteration of Star Trek, the newest in the Star Trek universe, and it's a Star Trek spy movie. We reviewed it earlier this week. It is Star Trek Section 31, but we promised some extras, and we've had the opportunity to speak to some of the cast. I think, Cam, you're best to introduce it, because I think this was your mission that you chose to accept.
Yes, while Scott embarked on his own Section 31 adventure, I took part in the press junket for the film and talked to actors Kacey Rohl and Humberly González, who play Rachel Garrett and Mel the Delton, respectively. And so that was a lot of fun, and I look forward to all of you hearing our interaction.
And once we're back from that, we'll talk about that a little bit, of course. But I got to venture to the Section 31 premiere here in London, where there was a Q&A with Michelle Yeoh and Rob Kaczynski that I actually recorded, and we're going to bring you a couple of snippets that I thought was quite interesting. I'll also talk about my experience at the premiere, and then maybe just a little bit more discourse on Section 31. But Cam, why don't we get to the interviews?
Hello, Kacey and Humberly. I'm very excited to have you on the Spy Arts podcast today. And I'd love to know, just out of the gate, what your sort of relationship was with Star Trek prior to joining Section 31.
This is a brand new relationship. We've been dating for a year. Definitely a baby Trekkie, but an instant fan. And I feel like I've been welcomed with very warm, open hands. So I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hi. I mean, yeah, same new Trekkie, but take the responsibility of being part of this very seriously. Am studious and studying up and learning and just fangirling hard all over the place. So, yeah.
Now, when it came to preparing, you had limited material, really, either with the Deltons or with Rachel Garrett. What was the preparation process like for you, both of you?
I mean, I think for me as an artist, with anything I tackle, inspiration, not repetition. So, having only seen Delton, like Azalea in the motion picture, there were still aspects of her that I really enjoyed, and just her energy, her pose, and her eyes, and the way that she still drew people in, and that's her power. Me getting to give her a bit more freedom and playfulness and a different culture, Persis, who was Miss India, played her, and now I get to be, another one brown girl to another brown girl. Like, how amazing is that? So it's such an honor to bring her to life in a different iteration.
I think in terms of Rachel Garrett, obviously I watched Yesterday's Enterprise about a bajillion times, which, lucky me, Trisha O'Neill did such an incredible job, bringing us Rachel as we first knew her. And so in talking with Tunde, our director, it became clear that what we didn't want to do is an impression of that. I was brought in to do this job because of my humanity, of the colors that I can bring. And so my prep process was consume that, let it percolate, try not to overthink it, which is like a hard thing for me because that's the devil on my back. And then to just really honestly trust Tunde. I was like, I don't know, man. Yeah. I am like, I love Rachel so much. I want to do a good job. I've shown you every color of the rainbow I possibly can in my audition. I need you to just point me, and I'm going to trust you. And I did, and he got what he needed. He seems jazzed, and that's how I approached it.
Is there a freedom when there is limited material? Like you can kind of go in your own direction. You're not pinned down, say, like Ethan Peck playing Spock, for example.
Yeah. Totally different beast. Totally different beast. I think there's way more room to play. There's something to, I don't know if Ethan has this experience playing like the character early on in their journey, like a younger version, right? Like there's different colors to play with there in terms of how old people are, right? But yeah, I mean, there's putting Rachel in the context she's in this film too, right? Like somebody who we know to be very Starfleet, very like by the book. It was clear to me that her ending up there meant that there was something about her spirit that they would have tagged on, right? So those kinds of little colors and poke throughs of something more rebellious or something a little surly, or maybe she talks back every now and then or rolls her eyes every now and then, and that she ends up in that place down the line, with there's work to be done to get there. It was interesting to me. Sorry to gesture across you.
Now, I'd love to know as well, Michelle Yeoh is an icon on our podcast. We tackle spy movies, and her Bond work is legendary.
Yes.
And I'd love to know just the experience of working with her, maybe a memory or something from set.
Oh, memories.
I mean, she's just, she's exactly as cool as you want her to be. That's every time I talk about Michelle, I'm like, she does not disappoint. She is so cool, so powerful, and by that I mean in her power, so self-assured, funny, generous, open, thanked us for being a part of the film.
Yeah. I was like, thank me? I was like, yeah, okay, thank me.
Yeah,
then.
no problem,
Yes.
Michelle Yeoh. Really no problem at all. But yeah.
It's fun to be in her energy and to watch her work and to see how inviting she is to invite you to play with her. She is not separate from us, no matter, where we come from or how, what kind of artists we are, or if we're, seasoned actors or not. We have a bit of everyone and everything in this cast, but everyone definitely brought their A game. But, a memory is, one of our first big cast dinners with everyone, I got sat next to Michelle, and she's so quick to bring you into a one-on-one that doesn't even have to do with the work or being an actor. She really wants to know you as a human, and I really appreciated that. And she's just funny, she loves to have a good time.
Yeah.
And she knows how to enjoy life, and I think that's really inspiring, especially in an industry that can be maybe a bit, abrasive and cutthroat, and and like, how do you get to that level of excellence and award-winning actor? She makes it feel approachable and possible.
And the rigor of her work, right? Like, yeah, that she is so committed to a level of excellence, and she does expect people to deliver, and that's a great environment to be in, right? And because of who she is, everybody wants to rise to that challenge. So in this movie, we found ourselves surrounded by everybody at the peak of their craft and artistry, right? So it's just from the top down, she sets a tone of, everybody be your greatest. Don't be afraid to be your greatest. Yeah.
And you both have action moments, and you're working with one of the all-time great action icons as well.
Holy smokes.
Talk about that, the experience of performing Section 31 action.
So fun. I was told by the stunt team that I was made for this. I was like, okay, I am envisioning and manifesting more stunts and fights in my life and career.
I love that for you.
I loved it. For me, choreo, I grew up with dancing and all that, so it was very fun to just dive in. Had lots of bruises, and add the fact that I was in a very tight dress and heels. It's fun. It's a new challenge, and you get to break stuff and beat people up. What's not fun about that?
Yeah.
Fake, of course.
Sure, of course.
Not in real life.
Also, you had limited mobility with your neck. You couldn't really turn your neck in the same
I
way
had
that you can
like
now.
prosthetics and the neck piece and everything. I really had to find my mobility within it for sure. Yeah.
Very cool. And I mean, my fighting was more of the psychological nature. And
Mind games.
Yeah, I took some hits and gave some hits Yeoh's way, and that was super fun.
Love it.
Now, one of the questions we ask every guest who's ever appeared on the podcast, what is your favorite spy movie of all time?
Oh my gosh.
Wait,
I needed this
Spy
question in
Kids.
advance.
Spy Kids? That's a great pick.
Incredible.
Oh, like I wanted to be in that movie. I thought yes, me and my brother, I think we watched it and we were like, could we be?
Do we
this?
consider All the President's Men a spy movie?
I mean, they are definitely doing some sort of, undercover stuff.
Shady
Breaking
business.
into what that's just one of my favorite movies of all time. Spy movies specifically. Oh, wow. There's so many. There's so many, and there's way cooler answers. But I grew up obsessed with Charlie's Angels, and I sort of put them in
Yeah.
the spy category.
It is
Nope,
not
definitely.
overrated.
Or also Kim Possible.
Yes, Kim Possible, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's way cooler ones that, like, I can feel my Criterion subscription screaming at me.
He's like, why couldn't you think of
Miss
this?
me.
No, it's all cool. Those came to the surface for a reason.
Yep. Oh, I can't hear anything all of a sudden. That's cool.
Okay, well, thank you, both of you. Have a great press day, and congratulations on Section 31.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. That was Kacey Rohl and Humberly González, and I humbly want to thank Paramount, Kacey, and Humberly for sitting down with Cam. Cam, you did a great job with your first, I think, ever solo mission.
No, that's actually not true. I interviewed Bruce Glover back in the day and talked Diamonds Are Forever.
Did that was just you? I completely forgot that was just you. I've listened to it enough times since to just think I was there too. But that was also recorded over a telephone, so that you really went through the ringer on that one.
Those were earlier days, not as luxurious as the very comfortable and easy to take part in forum that Paramount created here for me to talk to Kacey and Humberly. And it was a lot of fun. They were very energetic. These press tours that they were taking part in can often be very exhausting, but they were, as I said, like full of energy. They were having fun and, got to joke around a bit, but also give insight into, some individuals that we don't necessarily have on the podcast in interview form, like Michelle Yeoh, for example, and to hear them talk about her as a coworker and just as a personality on set, kind of setting the tone for the production, I thought was really interesting. We'd love to talk, Bond and Section 31 with Michelle Yeoh. Scott can talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, but probably not going to happen in the near-off future, so this was a great little insight. Plus, they had very quirky spy movie picks. Kim Possible and Spy Kids, you don't hear those ones every single week on Spy Hard's SpyMaster interviews, and so I'm always excited when people start naming movies that are a little outside of the Casino Royales or the Spy Who Came In From the Colds.
Yeah, I mean, generationally speaking, they're both quite young.
Yeah.
Not to say that their tastes won't improve over time. I'm not to sort of badmouth their choices. It's more of a case of we don't really get to speak of people that age on the show. A lot of our interviews are people are contemporaries or older than us.
Yep.
And a lot of their picks will be films that you or I probably would have picked. And so maybe this is just a generational shift that we'll start to see when we do more press junkets over the years. We'll see picks of films that are in the last 20 years. I mean, I'm not sure I can imagine a world where, or I think The Grey Man is someone's favorite choice for spy movie, or Heart of Stone.
Probably not, but they name Spy Kids and Kim Possible, which are obviously younger skewing spy properties.
Mm-hmm.
But is that really any different than the, myself, plus all the guests that come on and talk about James Bond, who they discovered at, 8, 10 years old?
No, I don't think so at all. And it also speaks to Robert Rodriguez's successfulness in pitching a spy movie at kids, because I'd say they're about the age where Spy Kids was directly bowled at them.
Definitely. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun to talk to them. And I thought what was most interesting of all was that they were both playing characters in the Star Trek universe that have very little previous material to draw from. Rachel Garrett, as I said in the interview, was in one episode of The Next Generation, and Humberly was playing an alien species with very little screen time outside of Star Trek The Motion Picture and a brief appearance on Star Trek Picard. And so the fact they got to kind of join the Star Trek universe in iconic type roles, but had so little to have to deal with in terms of backstory. And I mentioned Ethan Peck playing Spock, but you can look at so many people. You look at Chris Pine playing Captain Kirk in the J.J. Abrams films. there's a lot of pressure, whereas I felt like, and I asked about this, them having more freedom, and it seemed to me like it would be more freeing, and they did agree with that.
I mean, if I were offered those sets of roles, I mean, I think I'd probably still go for Kirk, just because who wouldn't want to play Captain Kirk?
Sure.
But from an actor's point of view, I can definitely see a world where you'd almost would rather step into the boots of the person who would become the captain of the Enterprise C, or a race of aliens that we barely know anything about, because it gives you an excuse, it gives you a reason, it gives you sort of carte blanche to paint a little bit more of the canvas because it hasn't been filled in.
And to put a stamp on that character or alien species that will inform the larger canon going forward.
Yeah, we got to see a little bit of the Deltans, like, powers of intoxication. It was kind of like Ivy from the fourth Batman film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was sort of going down that way, which is absolutely fine because we've never seen it from that perspective. But we were always told they were very sexual creatures, so it makes sense.
Poison Ivy in the fourth Batman film. There's like a comparison that everyone wants to have. You could have just said Poison Ivy in general.
Hey, I mean that film did money.
Sort of. Sort of.
Played by Uma Thurman. It's got some spy pedigree there. I'm all for this connection, Cam. I think you're the only one resisting it. I've obviously been kissed by Poison Ivy.
Clearly.
Mm. You're wearing the rubber lips over the top, so she can't get to you.
You were kissed by actual Poison Ivy.
Oh, I wonder why I was so itchy all of a sudden. And I do have my queries and my questions about the setting, time period wise, setting this film and using the character of Rachel Garrett. I'm not sure I have an answer as to why they thought that was a good idea, but I've got nothing against the performances. I think that was as good as what was written for Kacey, and I think she brought some energy to it.
Yeah, and I thought like Humberly really embraced a Delton character, and I wish the movie had had more fun with that.
I wish she stuck around. She was probably the most fun of the sort of ragtag group of Section 31 characters.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way.
Second to Kacey, I'd say, actually, as well.
Yeah, and actually Sam Richardson as the shapeshifter.
Not so much for me, but
Okay.
everyone's got their own taste. And one thing I'll use to connect a rainbow bridge between our two segments here. They mentioned, Michelle Yeoh being a sort of a mother on set and looking after people. It's actually one thing Michelle mentions in the Q&A
Mm.
after the premiere, was that it was really important for her. She's number one on the call sheet. She doesn't do that very often, to look after it. And Rob Kaczynski, who plays the sort of mecha chap,
Yep.
I'm not quite sure how they define what he is, but he's the sort of robot-y looking guy. Said that she took care of everyone from day one, and it was a really easy process because of her.
Mm.
And she would be the first one to sort of like stand up and say things on set, and point things out, help them with their performances, give them notes and coaching. So I guess that moves us on to the premiere.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was very fortunate to, literally at the time you were recording those, the same evening I was at the premiere. And I have my problems with this film. Listen to
Mhm.
the review. Came out earlier
Yep.
this week. We didn't hold back.
Nope.
Phasers and photon torpedoes were firing at a full volley, and this film's shields were down. Let's just say that.
We were like Eric Banya in Star Trek 2009 screaming fire everything.
Yes, we were. And Spock was not there to swoop in and save the day at the last moment. Or the Enterprise, I think, actually, if we're using that film as an example.
Yeah.
But to get an invitation to a Star Trek premiere, for me, was quite a nice thing. I actually won tickets to the Star Trek Into Darkness premiere in London
Oh, okay.
many years ago. So I attended that and sat in the front row of the Empire Theatre and got to sort of briefly meet the cast. Like I sort of, I think, met everyone apart from Benedict.
Okay. Yeah.
It was only like a handshake hello, but I got autographs, I think, with the whole cast
Mhm.
on a book in my house somewhere. And so that was a pretty magical experience. I got to wear a nice suit, and they took us out for dinner. Not them, but like the Paramount did. So going back to Section 31, it was nice to have that experience again based on what we do here. They saw that we're a spy movie podcast and we have some Star Trek connections, so it made sense to have us. I went along with friend of the show, Chris Carr, who I took as my plus one. Big Star Trek fan as well, so it made perfect sense. And I've said all I can say about the film. maybe I'll find some more words. But it was lovely to see Michelle Yeoh and Rob Kaczynski in person. And there was a short 20-minute Q&A, and I was toying with the idea of us playing that whole Q&A for you. I think I'll probably not do that. I think we're going to choose some select clips to cut in and just sort of reflect on those moments. And the first one I want to actually throw to is not from Michelle, but from Rob Kaczynski, who actually in the film plays a chap by the name of Zeph, who I mentioned, sort of the roboty-looking guy. And it turns out he is quite the Trekkie. Cam, roll the clip.
I was asked this question about what makes Star Trek such an enduring thing for people. And I was asked this earlier, and I then came on something off the cuff, but I'm going to try and repeat it, even though it's not so spontaneous now. But it's feeling quite prevalent to me at the moment, the way the world is. We're living in a post-truth world. We're living when truth is whoever says it first, whoever says it loudest, whoever says it most. And, there's that famous Goebbels quote, if you repeat a lie enough times, eventually it becomes the truth. We're living in a time where our societies and the systems that we've relied on are failing us. Capitalism is eating us. We're falling to global unrest, and we're feeling very lost and unmoored. But what Starfleet and Star Trek presents us with is a time where we've got past that. And to quote Picard, as I did earlier, the fundamental duty of every Starfleet cadet is to the truth, whether that is scientific truth, historical truth, or personal truth. I know my shit. And that is the guiding fundamental principle upon which Starfleet, and therefore Star Trek, is founded. And what it presents us is, this too shall pass, this moment in time where we are so torn. Why wouldn't you want to escape that to a world that's saying, hey, we're going to be all right? And we're going to be all right to such a degree that we will never need a Section 31 again. We will never need these kind of things, where we will be living better and kinder. And if you can't get behind that, and if you don't want to spend your days in that, I don't know, man.
We need Section 31.
We need Star Trek, and we need for Starfleet to exist, you need Section 31.
And you went on at Comic-Con about this. You did a TED talk on how you say it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
But what was the quote? It's easy to be a saint.
Yeah, it's the Cisco quote of "It's easy to be a saint in paradise," which he was referring to, in the Path of Enlightenment, to McKee, and about how McKee don't have the luxury of living the way that we do in the Federation, that safety. And here's why I think Section 31 is the most interesting thing in the world. Right? It's not just because I'm being paid to say it, but we are in a world, we're in a universe where there's the Dominion, where there's the Romulans, where there's the Klingons, where there's all of these things who don't live by the ethos of the Federation. They don't embrace those same things. We're dealing with people that have gone in different directions politically, and different machinations, and the Terran Empire, and all of these things. And you cannot have a society that isn't prepared for those. It is wonderful that the people in the Federation get to live like that idealistic way, but to keep them safe, there has to be people on the frontier ensuring that they can stay safe. Now, where Section 31 oversteps, in every show that has ever been, is when it starts to affect the Federation and the way the Federation itself is functioning. It's not where Section 31 should be. They should be on the frontier, keeping the people safe. And that's what I think is so interesting to play with, and what's going to become so fascinating if Section 31 goes on to be many more movies.
So, look, Rob, look at those credentials. You've watched a lot of Star Trek. Congratulations, you joined Cam and I in being massive Star Trek fans. I'm curious as to why you signed on to this film.
Well, to be fair, I think if someone came to you and was like, we'd like you in a Star Trek project, you'd say yes, without even thinking, if you were a massive fan.
Actors get to see the scripts first, right?
No, often not, no.
Then in that case, I guess you have no choice. You can't walk off. So in that case, I'm sure he was sold a Section 31 film, and that was it.
He would have known what kind of character he's playing, but beyond that, probably not much.
Then I withdraw my sarcastic comment, Rob. I wonder what you actually think about the film. That's actually what I'm more curious about now, because obviously you're doing the press tour. You're very positive about it. I'm sure it was a lovely experience to make. But as someone who has their sort of heart and soul tied into the world of Star Trek, I'm surprised it didn't pain you more, or maybe it did.
Was he the actor that on the earlier press rounds gave the interview where he said he was concerned that Star Trek fans would not embrace this movie?
Yes, spot on.
Okay.
So he said it's not like any other Star Trek that's come before, and he thinks people won't like it or aren't ready for it. I think maybe was the quote.
Which is a little more positive a way to put it. But yeah, I think he may have had a sense that this wouldn't necessarily connect with Trek fandom the way that, well, seems to be the case.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fine, and I appreciate his honesty really in that perspective. And I'm not a big fan of the character in the film, Zeth as a character. I'm not really sure what they were trying for with
Mhm.
that. More of a Drax the Destroyer, I assume.
I guess so, but they also set up, this mole plot with characters who don't know each other, and he's kind of the sacrificial lamb there, and it's kind of like a meaningless role because what is it? How does that connect with an audience if they don't know the characters as a group?
And then he kills him after half an hour anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we learned through the process of reading about the film in the interviews of the press tour they've been doing, and we're recording this sort of interstitial parts the day the film is actually released on the 24th of January, not to actually date us, but just giving you some insight. And there's been some interesting interviews given, and one thing we've gleaned is, as Cam mentioned in the review, this was, of course, we knew this was a TV series condensed into a film, but what we were under the impression of is this was an entirely new story. What it turns out is a lot of the story points in this film are from the series, just sort of squished together.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So I imagine you would have had more time with Zeph before he was killed off.
If he was there, because they said they switched characters around too.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll never know that story. But I wonder if he signed on when it was a TV show.
It's that's an excellent question, and I don't know.
No, I'm not sure time will ever know. I'm waiting for Mark Altman to do his 60-year mission and expand that story and get all the juicy details. But there's so many NDAs nowadays, I don't think you'll ever really find out what happened.
Yeah, I would lean towards no, he signed on for a movie.
Yeah. But let's hear from Michelle. I mentioned her being sort of a mother and taking care of people on set. Let's hear it from Michelle.
I think that's the Star Trek thing. Your
Brings
family.
people together.
The minute you step into that, your family, we protect each other. We're there for each other, and we protect the legacy. And we know there are so many of you out there that loves what we are doing, and you make us better. And we love you as much as you love us. So it goes both ways. So when you walk onto a set like that, it's a very different kind of atmosphere because you're walking on very solid grounds, but at the same time, as storytellers go, we also have to try and tell a story in a different kind of way and to, make it evolve, make you like us even more and see something else, something different and something new. And that's what we storytellers do. Otherwise, you'd be so bored of us. You walk in like, sorry.
It's the first time I've ever met a hero of mine and not been disappointed. Oh, there you go.
It's clear that Michelle was very proud to take on sort of the pole position, as it were, on this film, and feels like she does have a lot of time for the Star Trek universe, as it were. She's obviously clearly very proud of the Philippa Georgiou character. I don't think she would have come back if she wasn't.
No, I think she had a lot of fun on Star Trek Discovery. She had the best lines on the show. And I think the idea of like being able to do her own thing in the Star Trek sandbox probably was a lot of fun, that idea. So it makes sense. Plus, like, her as the leader of the team, basically. I just remember, with Star Trek Discovery, there was a lot of talk about Sonequa Martin Green and the way she worked with her fellow actors and had game nights and really made people feel welcome. So Michelle Yeoh would have been exposed to that and seen, I think, someone doing it very well, as well as Michelle Yeoh has a long career. She's been on so many projects and supporting roles where I'm sure the person at the number one spot was not particularly, gracious towards the coworkers that they had. And so,
Damn it, Jason Statham.
I'm not pointing fingers at Jason Statham because he'll break them. But you know, I think like she's probably been in those experiences enough times to recognize the importance of being a strong, you know, number one.
Do you think Michelle Yeoh went to game nights with the Discovery crew?
I wouldn't say it's impossible, especially in like maybe season 2 where she's there a lot more.
Something tells me she's just like got things to do. She seems too cool of a cat. She's going to a gallery opening, or she's, you know, a guest DJ at a rave.
I mean, look, it wouldn't shock me either if she was basically flying in and out
Yeah.
of doing her scenes, but yeah.
Or they were like blocking them together in episodes and stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. Shoot
Yeah.
her stuff really quick. Kind of like with Dave Bautista on My Spy 2.
Yeah, which showed.
It did. Yes, it did.
I could break down more clips from this interview, but there are, you can actually watch the full video of the Q&A online now on some people's YouTube channels. I'd urge you to go that way and just watch it and see Michelle and Rob in the flesh and hear what they have to say. Those are just some things that stood out to me. They had an after party for the premiere as well, which was a baffling experience as people kept approaching me to see what my follower count was on social media.
I would have assumed you would have had it printed on a t-shirt.
Hi, my name is 10K.
That's right. That's right.
They were very confused by the badge. It didn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm glad they invited me. I would say it was a shame that the Star Trek film I was invited to see was this one.
Boy, you've had a real 1-2 punch with that and Into Darkness.
Yeah, I've definitely not been at the heights of the franchise.
One day you'll get there, Scott. Keep climbing.
Well, maybe that's an interesting discussion to sign us off. Is if you've made it this far in this episode and the second Star Trek episode of the Star Trek week, you don't mind a bit of Star Trek talk. So just forgive me 5 minutes, all right?
Yeah.
Just settle in, you know, lower your shields. Let's have some fun. What's next? Like, where do they go from this? Because they pitched as to have a Star Trek TV movie every year.
Right.
That was the idea. This was the first one, and it was delayed. But this was the first one. Will we ever see another one?
The response to this one so far has been exceedingly poor. I don't know what kind of viewership it's going to get. If it winds up being watched a lot on Paramount Plus and does whatever it needs to do for them, then they'll say, "Oh, whatever, do another one." So that's not impossible, but I think if you get another one, maybe they try to do some sort of like Picard spin-off thing where maybe it's a character from TNG, like maybe they give like Worf a movie or something, or Geordi, or just take a character that has a built-in fan base and play it safe, maybe. But
it needs a hook.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see any more Section 31 films, which means the chances of us covering future streaming films on Spy Hards are slim to none.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think there'll ever be another time when Star Trek and spy movies meet.
Well, you never know, but it's going to be a while, I think.
Well, and that's probably the other question I had was, are we ever going to see Michelle Yeoh's Philippa Georgiou again?
I think this is the end of the road.
I mean, the film at one point, signals that it's killing her, and I still think that was the right choice.
I figured that was their way of giving her a farewell, because the character was set up for a spinoff during the 3rd season of the show, and otherwise it's just bizarre. Like, so it would have given finality to that character's journey. The fact it didn't was very optimistic on their part.
I mean, always leave the door open. I understand that sort of mentality, but I feel like it was foolhardy here.
Yeah, not the choice that was probably going to prove to be the right one.
Or best for the character.
Right.
But there you go, folks. The Star Trek spy movie happened, and it happened to be Section 31.
And we all witnessed it.
Or maybe you didn't, and you've just come for our coverage and for us to bash it around a bit. And thank you for sticking around if that's the case.
Thank you.
I can guarantee you had a better time listening to this than you did watching the film.
Oh dear.
It's not often I can, blow smoke up my own ass and know it's the truth. But that ends our trek with Trek for now.
That's very ominous, but okay.
But Cam, moving on, what are we talking about next week?
Well, Scott, Section 31 is very much a now movie. It is 2025 as it's happening. Well, next week we're going back in time. We're going to follow, Giorgio through the Guardian of Forever back to the year 1936 and look at the Alfred Hitchcock film Secret Agent, starring John Gielgud.
Another film that sort of lends to the cornucopia of films that have the word agent in the title that we've tackled so far.
Yes, although this one has the advantage of being directed by Hitchcock.
Oh, I mean, I don't even think this would necessarily classify as a Spy Hard special.
No.
This is pure Hitch.
It is indeed. Once a movie is directed by Hitchcock, it instantly belongs to a canon that will forever separate it from, the riffraff.
Like us.
That's right, yes.
Well, we've heard it from you folks. We know you want us to go back so we can finally scratch that hitch for you.
Oof.
Join us next week as we take a look at 1936's Secret Agent. I can hope and promise and probably guarantee it'll be a much merrier time than this week's film. But if you like what you heard in this episode, please support us over on Patreon, patreon.com/spyhards. I want to again thank our benefactors at Paramount for letting us go to the premiere and for arranging for Cam to do the interviews. Appreciate that, folks. Thank you for having us aboard. But until next week, folks, I hope you all live long and prosper.